All right, everyone. Good afternoon. This is Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College. And we're, for lack of better words, kind of coming into the home stretch of at least of the case study that we've been doing for the SportsPro project. All right. Now, the last time I talked with you about SportsPro, we were in chapter 4. So we didn't really have a whole heck of a lot done. All right, since then you were supposed to do 6 through 12, and 12 is due this weekend, but really 6 through 12 you were supposed to do on your own. That said, I've had some students report to me that they've had problems, especially with chapter 12. So what I attempted to do the last couple days in class was to start kind of redoing, whatever you want to say, 6 through 11 and then do 12 from scratch. Well, I ran into my share of problems, and there are a lot of reasons. They're not important. They're really not. But what I've decided to do was I'm going to bring up the chapter 4, and that's actually what I have here. And I actually also have the author's 12.2. So I'm going to kind of go over the steps from chapters 6 through 12 that you'd have to go through to get your program looking the way that it should. I'm going to try to do this nice and slowly. There's no reason to hurry. All right. So right now, if you take a look, if I run this, so let's see. All right, so if we do run this now, again, this is the chapter 4 version that I'm running right now, or at least I believe it is. And I'm going to bring it up. I'll know right away whether or not it is. Yeah, it is, because it's still got the about over here. And it's not formatted very nicely. But when you look at it right now, so through chapter 4, where we were, you can go over and you can manage projects. All right. You can manage technicians. You can manage customers. You can manage incidents. Now, what you cannot do up to this point is we did not do anything for registration, so that's empty. We did not do anything for updating incidents, so that's empty. All right, so I'm going to take it from right there, but the way I'm going to explain this is, again, I'm going to show you the working version that's in chapter 12 to get us to this point. All right, so let me close the run on this, and I'm going to bring up the chapter 12 one here. All right, so when you look in here right now, in fact, for just a second, let me jump back here into chapter 4. And you'll notice that when we do this, we have what? We have 5 controllers: a customer controller, a home controller, an incident controller, a product controller, and a technician controller. All right. And as you'd guess, we have the same thing in here: customer, home, incident, product, and technician. So again, there's not really anything new as far as that goes. All right. If I go into models, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 models: a country.cs model, a customer.cs model, an incident.cs model, a product.cs model, and a technician.cs model. In addition, we have our SportsPro context. All right. So with that in mind, and I may bop back and forth a little bit between the two, I'm going to bring up the one, like I said, I'm going to actually bring up the one for chapter 12, which is here. Okay, and that's the one I'm going to work with. So let's go and take a look at what we're supposed to do in here. So starting with chapter 6. add an about page like the one shown above. So add this. That's displayed by the about action of the home controller. Secondly, use attribute routing to shorten some of the URLs for the app like this. So in other words, all right, I shouldn't have to go to product/list. I should be able to go to /products. I shouldn't have to go to technician/list. I should be able to go to /technicians. You'll notice with these last 4 examples here that each and every one of them has an S on the end. All right, that'll be important a little bit later. And for the about, right now, I've got to go to home/about, but we want to be able to go to just /about. All right, so let's take a look at what has to be done in order for that to happen and in order for this to happen. All right, so taking it from, again, the Chapter 12 program, if I go over, and we've already seen this, but if I go into my home controller here, okay, this is about. So what we've added is this, all right, which basically will allow us to route to any method that's in our home controller. So if we had some other method in here other than about, and let's say we had public iAction result terms or something like that, all right, then we would be able to, if we put this here, we'd be able to go to just /terms, all right. So what I want to show you is if we look at this back in Chapter 4, all right, so this is the old one. And if I run this, and I'm not going to click on the link, but if I go out here to /about, that doesn't work because we haven't set that routing action up yet. However, if I go out to /home/about, there I am. So that did work. So I'm now out there, but I've got to let it know what the controller is. Now, jumping back then into Chapter 12, with this in here now, this route action, you'll notice that when I run this now, 2 things, it just kind of flipped the way that it was. And what I mean is, now if I go into /home/about, which worked before, it doesn't work now. However, if we go to /about directly, we're there. So that's the difference. We've told it to route, and in our home controller, any action that's in there that we've set up like this, we'll be able to get directly to there by just doing a / followed by the name of that action method. All right, so that's the first thing. Okay, what else did we have in here? Well, again, what we were told to do was, so we've done this one now. We added the about page, nothing big there. I think everybody did that with no problem. But we want to come in here and in our products, in our technicians, in our customers, and in our incidents, in those 4, all right? Remember, back in Chapter 4, when we started this, we had a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different controllers, all right? And the only ones that had list methods, or the ones that had list methods, were all of them except the home controller. So whatever we're going to add, we want to add it to the customer controller, the incident controller, the product controller, and the technician controller. All right. So jumping back then to Chapter 12, let's bring each one of those up in turn. All right. So here's our customer controller. And if we go down to our list method, here's what you see. In fact, that code that you see in blue there is actually going to be the code that we put into all 4 of the non-home controllers. All right. And remember what we wanted to do. We wanted to put the name of the controller with an S on the end, slash, and then we wanted it to go right to list. All right, that's exactly what we were told right there. All right, so let's take a quick look. Let's run it. And well, just to show you first, that was customers. So let's look at incidents, technicians, and products. So here's incidents, same thing. Here is technicians. All right, well, let's do products next. There's products. Okay, we haven't even talked about registration yet. We don't have a list in there. All right, I guess we do. So we've added it in there also. All right, we've got technicians, and there it is. We've also got a tech incident. All right, and you'll notice it's not in there. Okay, and we've got a validation controller, which is just running basically our thing to check our email. All right, so the point is, we came in and in our incident and in our customer and in our incident and in our product and in our technician controllers, in all of those, all right, we have added something where we're able to go in, all right, in our list method and go to that controller. How do I know whether or not that works? Let's run it. Again, I'm going to save everything. I'm not even changing this, so I don't really have to save it. But I want to check everything that we were just told in here to make sure that indeed all of them work. All right, so what do we have here? Slash products, slash technicians, slash customers, slash incidents. So if I go here and I put in slash products and I hit enter, all right, and you go, wait a minute, no, that didn't work. All right. So if I go to localhost slash products, it didn't work. So let's look in here. That should go to product slash list. Well, let's look at a different one. I can already tell I spelled products wrong. It says profdux. So let's put it in there again as products. And hit enter. And there's our product list. If I go to incidents, there's our incident list. If I go to customers, there's our customer list. And finally, if I go to technicians, there's our technician list. So all of it is working. All right. The other thing that we were supposed to do in here is originally we had all of these set to active. So they were all the bright white like you see right here. All right. But we had to go in and change those as well. And in order to do that, so again, you know now that you've got to add this route controller. All right. If I go down into views, shared, and I go to my underscore layout, couple things here. First of all, we want to add that view context.route data for both the controller and also for the action. So you see those up on top. So make sure you do that. All right. Next, for lack of better words, we kind of thinned out the head section. All right. We kept our meta tags and our title. As far as our spreadsheets, as far as our CSS files, we've still got a link to the bootstrap.min.css. We've still got a link to our local /css/site.css. There was another CSS file in there. I don't even remember what it was called, but we got rid of that one. Then with our scripts, we kept jQuery.min.js. We kept bootstrap.bundle.min.js. We no longer have in here our link to the validate for jQuery and the validate unobtrusive for jQuery. All right. We're going to bring those back, but not for everything. Remember, this is the layout for all files. And really the only place where we want to put in that jQuery validate and the jQuery validate unobtrusive are in add, edit, or edit type of methods. All right. So we thin that out, and then we come into here. This is all fine. That doesn't change at all. This changes dramatically from here on down to here. So let me make this smaller. There, now you can see all of it. All right. And again, the idea that's right here, all right, so for lack of better words, what we have to do in here, and I'll leave this up so you can take a good look at it. All right. This first one says, if the controller is home and the action is index, which is our default action, of course, for the home controller, then we want the home controller page to be active. In other words, to have that bright white. Otherwise, don't. And then you'll notice for each one of these, product list, technician list, customer list, incident list, and for registration, it's get customer. But for each one of those, if that particular controller is up with that method, it'll have the white on it. In other words, it'll be the brighter white because that's what's active. But what you'll notice if I come in here and run this, look at this. This is the run for chapter 12. And you'll notice, unless I mouse over them, they're not bright. And it's at home. But if I go to manage products, now products is lit up. If I go to technicians, now technicians is lit up. The way we had this set up in chapter 4, we had everything that was in there. Everything was highlighted. All right. And let's see. I don't even know if I've got the right one up, but we'll find it out. It doesn't look like we do. All right. So it looks like I've closed the other two stupidly, but that's all right. No, they're both here. So here's SportsPro. Here's the chapter 4. And what you'll notice when I run this is each one of the options will look white because they're all set to active. And technically, this doesn't work at all doing this. See that? It just comes back. And maybe they will work. Yeah, I guess it does. I'm clicking it hard to make it do something. But you can't really tell what page you're on right now. All right, which I guess is kind of the, for lack of better words, sort of the little downfall of doing it like that. All right, so we spent just a few minutes on this, but we have now come in, we did our add, we added the about page, and we did the attribute routing. And I even started to jump into chapter 7 here. We got the navigation links to work correctly. All right, so that first part is there. Before we go into the middle one here, before we go into the Razor for each, let's take a look at this jQuery library. All right, and the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to bring up anything that is in my views here that has an add edit. So here's an add edit. And you'll notice that when we look, if we look, does this one have that? Actually, it doesn't appear to. So let's look. Section, oops, wrong. All right, so that doesn't have anything in it. So let's look at delete, which is so small, that doesn't have anything in it. And how about list? That doesn't have anything in it. Okay, am I on the right one, just to be sure? All right. This is bad when you keep bopping back and forth between two different projects like this. All right, now I'm sure I'm on chapter 12 because I've got the right stuff in here. All right, so let's look. So again, I'm going to go to customers and I'm going to go to add edit. And you'll notice there is my section scripts tag. Okay, it's not in delete, it's not in list. Then if I go over to incident and I go to the add edit, there it is again. But again, it's not in delete and it's not in list. If I go down to product and I go to add edit, there it is. But again, it's not in delete and it's not in list. All right, registration we're going to skip right now. We haven't gotten to that part yet anyway. But if I go to technicians and I go to add edit, there it is again. All right, we don't have it in delete and we don't have it in list. Now the takeaway from that, all right, the takeaway from that is add edit is the only time when we are potentially changing the database, either by adding a new record or updating an existing record. So those are really the only two places where we would need client-side validation utilizing jQuery. All right. All right, so let's look at what else is in here then. So again, we did the navigation links, we did the jQuery here. Now, we want to take the for each loops and we want to change them. All right, this is where I was starting to do this yesterday and I had some problems. All right, again, I can sit there and make all sorts of excuses to you. I'm not going to. All right, let's just take a look at what we have. Now, here's the add edit for customer. There should be a for each loop in there, I would think, but maybe there's not, because I think this is basically just a listing of the customers. So there might not even be one in here. So for each. Okay, oops, try that again. So for each, okay, and if I look, not in here. Okay, how about delete? Okay, again, I'll check for, whoops, for each, not in here either. And how about list? All right, and list looks like it has a for each in it, but it doesn't have any kind of select statement in it. All right, so that one, for lack of better words, kind of is a freebie. It's done. Home shouldn't have anything in it. There's the about for home. We already saw that. And there's the index for home. All right, and there shouldn't be any for each in here either. So that one's done. So we've already got control, or customers rather, and home. So what's left? Incident, product, and technician. We're not worrying about right now tech incident or registration. So we got to check these three. So I'm going to go to incident. Okay, and again, I'm going to search here for each. And it isn't finding anything. No for each in there. All right, let's delete There shouldn't be any for each in there. And how about list? And is for each in there. There it is. But when you look at it again, we're just listing out fields. We don't have any select statement in here at all. So there's nothing to change in here either. All right, so far we have tested, checked out customer, home, and incident, which leaves us with product and technician. So let's look at those. Here's product, and this is the product add edit. All right, and it looks like, again, there's nothing in here to change. How about the delete? Nothing to change. How about the list? Well, there's the for each. But again, when you look at what's in here, there's no select statement. Okay, so I think we're okay in there as well. All right, so that means the only one that's left then in here right now is technician. All right, nothing in the add edit, nothing in the delete, and in the list, there's the for loop, but again, nothing set up in here where there's a select statement. We're going to run into this in a little bit, and when we do, we'll come back and look at it some more. But I think everything that they've asked us to do here for this chapter is now completed. All right, so we did all this stuff. So let's jump into chapter 8. Now, let's demonstrate first what this is going to do. Okay? All right. So if I go back to my chapter 12, all right, which already has the changes in it. And if I go back to my chapter 12 here and I run the program, okay, and I come into manage products, and I'm going to edit this, and I'm just going to change this from draft 10 to draft 100. Watch what happens up here. Draft Manager 1.0 was updated. All right, I'm going to remove that. It's going to give me the message again, but that's okay. All right, now let's add a new product. All right, so I've just got ABC123, some new product. We'll just give it a random price, $667, and we click it, and it should say some new product was added, and it does. All right, if I make changes here, so let's change the price and say that, oh, it was only $67. Now it says some new product was updated. Finally, if I go in and delete that and say, yes, I want to delete it, it says some new product was deleted. So that's handled all of them. Now I could do this with the other ones too. I could add and update a technician or a customer or an incident. But I just wanted to show you here what's actually going on. All right. So again, in 8.1, we're going into the product controller, as it says there. We'll edit the return types of the action methods so that anything that returned a view previously, all right, specifies view result as the return type, and anyone that had previously, all right, some kind of a redirect will change to redirect to action. Okay, so let's do that first. So let's bring up the product controller. Program is still running, so I'm stopping it. All right, under controllers, I'm bringing up the product controller right here. All right, and if we look in here at our return types, there's view results. So that's been changed. There's view results. So that's changed. These were all iAction results. And I believe that iAction result is a superset of view result, meaning that iAction result, all right, is included in here, for lack of better words. Sorry. Okay. Now, if we look down at the bottom here, we have put in a redirect to action result. All right. Now that's, for lack of better words, that's kind of just wordsmithing, what we're doing right there. Okay. Whoops, wrong one. Now, it also says in the second bullet there, in the product controller, use temp data to store the success message for each successful add, edit, or delete operation. Then display the message on the product manager page. You already saw that. To do that, it says you can add some code to the layout, and that layout has to display the message across the top of the page if one exists. Well, guess what? I don't think I even showed you that before, so let's look at that. So in other words, I'm going to come back out to the layout page, and if we go down right near the bottom of it, that's right here. In English, what that is saying is, hey, temp data, the message field, was basically defaulted to be empty. But if it does have something in it, all right, then we are to show that. And again, you already saw what that looked like when we had that, Draft Manager, or whatever it was called, 1.0 updated, or, some new product added, or some new product updated, or some new product deleted. All right, so we already have that. Okay. So again, looking back in here, I'm going to go back into the controller, and I'm going to look for temp data. And where I see it, where I use it, all right, so here's my product controller again. So I'm going to close out all this other stuff. But in my product controller here, well, here's an ad. All right. And you'll notice that if we're doing an ad, it's like, well, you're not doing anything here. And if you're doing an edit, you're not doing anything here. Yes, we are. It's all in here. All right. We're creating a local variable that's called message. You can see it in line 43. It's a string variable. If the model validated correctly, meaning all of the fields were of the right type, size, whatever, they met anything that we put in there, we have to check the product ID. You know this from earlier classes, that if the product ID is equal to 0, what that means is this is going to be an ad. And if you look on line 49, you've got the product name, whatever that is, was added. All right, if the product ID is not equal to 0, then as you can tell on line 54, it'll say the product name was updated. All right. Now we just have this local variable right here, and then we go and copy that local variable right there. Now I mentioned this in class the other day, but what you could do if you wanted to is you could come in right here and say temp data message, like that. That'd be totally fine. And if we did this here, and if we did that here, so if we did it in these two places, then we don't really need this line of code right here. All right. It's not exactly code bloat. All right. But one thing we're doing by leaving it the way that we had it here is we are guaranteeing, all right, that we're using our local variable message to hold the information, and then we're copying it over. I'm not going to say that's a good thing or a bad thing or anything else. It's just a way of doing it. All right. So that was in the save, which is going to handle the add and the edit. But if we look in the delete, you'll notice in here, we've only got one thing. So we go right to temp data message. And we say that the product name was deleted. So again, from what I just mentioned to you, I just basically told you or showed you two different ways this could be done. And it's, what's the old saying, 6 of one, a half dozen of the other? It really doesn't matter that much one way or the other, which way you do it. All right, so what else do we have in here? All right, so we've got A2, use a view model with the incidence manager. So we're supposed to go and add 2 new view models. All right. So the first one says use a view model to pass data to the incident manager page. This view model should store a list of incidents and a string that specifies the filtering for the page. Then we're supposed to create another view model to pass data to the add edit incident page. This is more extensive. As you can see, it stores a list of customers, a list of products, a list of technicians, the current incident, and a string that specifies whether the page is for an add or an edit operation, which we just will call action. All right. So if we go in here, and I'm going to show you something here, and if you say, why did they do that? I didn't write the book. All right. But what Muroc has done here, if you start taking a look in here, I'm going to close the controllers folder. And if you look in here, all right, if you look in here, what you're going to notice, let me close the views folder as well, that rather than putting view models in the models folder, they didn't do that. Rather than putting the data layer in the models folder, they didn't do that. Everything is kind of standing by itself, for lack of better words. All right. Now, the only two that we care about are these two, here and here. So the first one is the incident list view model. And as we were told in there, we should have a string for the type of filtering we want to do and an IEnumerable of type incident that we will call incidents. So that is our incident list view model. In addition to that, we've got an incident view model, which, as I said a few minutes ago, is more extensive, expansive, whatever you want to say. It's got a little more meat to it. It's got the incident, that string for action, which is going to be add or edit. Then it's got 3 different IEnumerables. Basically, it's got a list of customers, a list of products, and a list of technicians. Oops, why I keep doing that, but I do. So those are the 2 view models that we're asked to put in there for 8.2. All right, let's jump up to chapter 9. For this assignment, it says here, we will add some pages that let technicians view all of their assigned and open incidents. Then the technician can edit an incident's description and specify a close date. Now, what you've got to realize here is we're going to be showing multiple pages. This first page here is going to be for an incident get routine. This will allow us, it will show us the list of technicians, and there's 5 or 6 of them. And we can pick any one of them out and use them as we see fit. So that's the technician or tech incident get. Then notice there's a tech incident list, and it's got the person's name in there that you can see and any open incidents they have. Now, I will tell you, if you try going to this page directly, so if I go in there, and I don't think there's 14 technicians, but let's say I want technician 3. So if I go into my http://localhost port number /tech incident /list /3, I'm going to get an error. And the main reason is because I have not yet set the person's name, and the system is confused as to what to do. All right. But you can see again, Gunter Went has something open. Let's see if we can get this to work, and then we'll go in and actually look at the work to make it happen. All right, so we run this. And again, this has already been built because I'm using the one for 12.2. So it's not in here, but if I go over to here and type in tech incident /get. All right, that shows us our list of technicians. If we don't pick one, we get an error message up in our temp data. You must select the technician. All right, I'm going to go down, and they had Gunter Went. All right, and there was the open incidents that Gunter, whatever, has. In fact, I believe if you look at the rest of them, I could be wrong, that might be the only open one that's in here. So Allison has none. Jason has none. Andrew has none. We already looked at Gunter, and Gina Fiore has none. So let's go back, and we'll choose Gunter again. Okay, just so we've got something to work with. All right, now when we click select, notice it goes to list, and it does give us Gunter's number or his ID. All right, now can I edit this? I should be able to. That said, all the stuff you see on the screen here, the title, the customer, the product, and the date opened, those 4 fields are cast in stone. I can't play with those. What I can play with when I click edit, because it's going to bring up a very simplistic looking little form, what I can edit are either the description or giving it a close date. There you go. So I can't touch any of these. They're all set up as labels in here. The description I can change. It says received error message 415 while trying to import data from a previous version. This is not what it is supposed to do. All right. Now, I'm not going to see anything when I go back because it's not showing that on here. But if I click edit, you can see that my comment persisted. All right. Also, if I come in here and I close this, so let's put down 12/31/2022. All right. So if we put that in here like this, now it says that Gunter has no open incidents. And it says that because we just changed it and we closed it. If we go back to incidents here, all right, and again, I don't remember which one it was, all right, but let's see. So let's see if we go to edit this. The technician was Allison, so it wasn't that one. The technician was Gunter, so it could have been that one. I think that's what it was. All right, so yes, there it is. So let's remove this close date. So we're reopening it basically. All right. Now, if I go back again to technicians and I go back to Gunter, in fact, I want to go to tech incident, not technicians. But if I go back to tech incident, and I think he was number 14, so it would be list 14. Now we've got it back, and Gunter's back, and he has that open again. All right. Also, you may or may not have noticed, but we're in here. We've also got this. Notice that we've got all incidents here. Now I've got unassigned. And what it's doing is it's changing. This is adding that pill in here. So that's the only one that isn't assigned. So this is, the customer is Kendall Mate. These are the ones that are open. So it's Kendall Mate. And this is the other one that we just did for Gunter. Okay. But if we look here at Kendall Mate, and we look under technician, we don't have one. If we assign this one to Gunter and click save, all right, now if we go to open incidents, Gunter should have 2 of them, and indeed he does. All right, we can go back in there and say, you know what, he's too busy. So I'm going to change that back again to assign to technician. And now it's open again, and it's unassigned. All right, so, we're just playing with stuff here, for lack of better words. All right. So in order to do all that stuff, notice it says the Get Technician page is only displayed by the Update incident link on the home page. There's no link for it in the nav bar. All right. The Get Technician page allows the user to select the technician name. If the user doesn't select a name, the app, you already saw this, displays a message in the temp data that says they must select a technician. The Incidents by Technician page displays all open incidents that have been assigned to the selected technician, or, as mentioned here, if there are no open incidents, it displays a message saying there are no open incidents. Well, let's see if we can force that into happening. Right now, if we come in here and we run this again, where is our, all right, we have an open incident, right? 2 of them. And if we go back, so this is Ania Irwin and Kendall Mate. If we edit this incident and we close it, all right, now if we look at open incidents, there's only 1. If we look at this one and close it, now it's closed, and if we go to open incident, all right, there aren't any. Now, we could probably have used some temp data here or something and just said there are no open incidents. Same thing with the unassigned here. There's this one, but if we assign it a technician, now there's nothing unassigned and there's nothing open. Everything is just shown. Okay? To switch technicians, the user can click the switch button. This displays the Get Technician program again. So this was the edit. So let's just take it from the top. This was the Get page. This is a drop down that's got everyone in there. If you don't select anyone, so this will say select the technician. If you don't select one and it still says select the technician and you click select, you get the message here in your temp data that says you must select the technician. Then once you do and you choose someone like Gunter Wendt, it shows every assigned open incident they have. It does not show the closed ones. And again, oh, it was that person I meant. I didn't mean Gunter. I meant someone else. So you click that button. Also, again, you can edit that open incident, but the only two things in there that you can edit is you can edit the description and you can edit the date closed. All right, but the four things that are showing there, those being title, customer, product, and date open, cannot be edited. Here is that edit page, and it's showing what I just mentioned. That is that technician, customer, product, title, and date opened. None of those 5 fields in here are editable. In fact, these are labels, and these here are also set up as labels. All right. So again, the only 2 things you can edit in here are the description and then adding a date closed. That's it. I suppose you could probably edit the date closed if it was already set too. So from the incidents by technician page, all right, the user can click the edit button to update that incident. It allows you to modify the description and optionally enter a date it was closed. So like we said, those are the only 2 fields that you can jack with. If the technician successfully updates, it should display the list again, and it should be updated. All right, and the website rather should store the technician's ID in session state. That way, as it says, the website can remember the current technician. All right. Now that's it then. I guess we're already in 9. Okay. Then in chapter 10, we add some filtering here. Looks very similar with what you see right here with this incident manager. All right. So as it says, the incident manager page should include 3 links that are the pills. So these should look like links, except for the one that's chosen, the current one, and that should look like a button. And that's what they ask you to do here. All right. Now, what I'm going to do before I come in and go to chapter 11, which we're going to do in a moment. All right. But I'm going to come back into here. And again, I'm in the one for chapter 12. All right. But I want you to see right now, at least, I may be showing you some changes that are made later. But under controllers, here is our customer controller. Okay. So as we come in here, you'll notice we're setting up something here. All right. Our context, instead of calling it context, they call it data. It's no biggie. We talked about this routing earlier. This is our list. And again, all that list is doing is it's running a query that tells it to list everything. All right. And it's ordering it by last name. When we do a get, again, it's doing just that. So notice in here, the get is for our add. All right. There's our edit. Now, my hope is those of you who are experiencing any kind of problem with chapter 12. So let's say you were having a problem here and it was in this save routine and you just didn't know what was wrong. And it's like, well, you showed it. Yeah. Then what I do is I would hit my print screen key that's on the top of your keyboard towards the right. And then I would grab this and basically just put it into Paint. So there's the first half of the save routine. Then I would wait until the instructor showed you the second half, which is down here, and I'd do it again. So I now have both of these. All right. So what I'm doing here is I am stepping through everything that's going on, but I'm expecting you to still do some of the work yourselves. All right. Hopefully that makes at least a little bit of sense. All right. I don't need to save that, and I don't need to save that one either. So that was the customer controller, right? No, it looks like right here, customer controller. All right, next is the home controller. We've already looked at that. Got just index and about. We've thinned it out by removing all the privacy stuff and all the logging stuff that we don't need. And we added in line 12 that route action. You know why, we talked about that earlier. Here is our incident controller. All right. And again, they're calling it data for whatever reason in here instead of context. It's no biggie. As mentioned earlier, we're setting up the route so that we're able to go to /incidents and get there. All right. We set up a new view model, and notice we're doing the filtering in here. Why? Because remember, I want to show you why. I'm going to come right here. You can see it on your screen here, but if I go over here to incidents, those are our three types. Everything unassigned, and everything open. Now, it's a little bit of a misnomer. We could even have added more on here, and for example, all right, we could have had a history. So if I wanted to know all incidents that have been logged for, since this has started, and I could even map them up to see, for example, with Jason Lee, how many incidents was he responsible for, etc. So that's the filtering in here. If it's unassigned, where the technician ID is null. If it's open, where the date closed is null. All right. And otherwise, okay, it's the date open where it hasn't been closed yet. All right. Then we've got our incident view model in here for get view model. All right. And that's right here. This is how we're populating those three lists, for lack of better words. All right. So we're populating a customer list, we're populating a product list, and we're populating a technician list. Here's where we're actually calling the filtering. Here's where we can either add an incident right there or show it, do the add. All right. And we've got our post with our save, which is by now, they're not identical, but most of them are very similar to one another as far as what we're doing in here. Again, if it's valid and it's a 0, it's an insert. Otherwise, it's an update. Then we're doing the name of our context.save, and we're going back to the list. Otherwise, we had a problem. So if the incident ID was a 0, the action's an add. Otherwise, it's an edit, but we're just pushing them back to the add edit page. All right. And with our get in here in our post for our delete, it's just that. All right. All right, next. So we've looked at the customer controller, the home controller, and the incident controller. Next, let's look at the product controller. okay, the product controller. So here that is. And in many ways, it'll be more of the same. All right. There's our list. There's our add get, our edit get, our post save. All right. Which again, we're checking here. Since we're working with products, we're checking to see if it's a new product. If it is, it has a product ID of 0. And we are setting up that temp data so we can have the message that the product has been added. All right. Otherwise, if the product ID is not 0, it's of course an update. So again, we're setting the message here that the product name was updated. And finally, when we go down into here, and in just a second, when we actually go down into the delete, the same kind of thing, but we'll want to say in there that the product was deleted. All right. And again, I'm not trying to be whatever here, but it's not rocket science. We're doing a lot of similar stuff in here with whatever it is we're working with. So there's the delete. The registration we're not going to talk about for right now, but we just added this tech incident. So this is new. So let's look at the tech incident controller and then the technician controller. So what are we doing in here? Well, again, this is pretty much the same for all of them. And we've got a get. If you remember with these tech incidents, we needed a get. All right. We also needed a list. And this right here, this whole thing, this tech incident, it's all basically set up. You'll notice you already saw this, but if I come in here and just put in tech incident and nothing, I think I need to put in at least a get, but I don't know if it'll take it just like that or not. Nope. But if I do a get, all right, and let me spell it right. Tech incident, nothing. Tech incident get. What if I put in nothing? It should default to get. We put that in as our default action, didn't we? All right, it's not defaulting. So here, /get. All right. So this is our get. All right. Where we've got our listing in here. If we don't put anything in, we get the temp data right up here. If we do select the technician, we get their information. And again, earlier, if you remember, we went in and we changed it. So we have now, there's no open incidents. All right. There's no unassigned instances either. So again, that was the get. There's the post for list. Why they put the post before the get, I don't know. But there's the post. And there's the get. There's the get for edit. And here's the post for edit. And that's it for tech incident. All right, so the one that's left to look at is technician. So here's our technician controller. Again, nothing new in here. There's our list. And you'll notice that list doesn't have a get or a post with it. It's just listing. Basically, you're just running a query, kind of a select all type of thing. Then we've got our add get, and we've got our edit get. And they're both going to be handled again in our add edit by our save routine down here. If I go down to that, we're again checking to see if it's a new technician. And if we find it is, we're inserting him or her. Otherwise, we're updating the changes to him or her. And that's only if everything worked in here. If it didn't work, we're setting the view bag action and we're pushing them right back to where they just were. All right. Finally, we've got our delete in here. So that's it for all of the controllers. All right. So we have now looked at, from what we've done so far, we have looked at the customer controller, the home controller, the incident controller, the product controller, the tech incident controller, and the technician controller. We have not yet looked at the registration controller or the validation controller. We'll get to those in a bit. All right. We looked at two of our view models, those being the incident list view model and the incident view model. In our models, we looked at country.cs, customer.cs, incident.cs, product.cs, and technician.cs. We did not look at registration or this check.cs here. So it's view time. This is fairly extensive or expansive. All right. We've already looked at the underscore layout in here, so I'm not going to bring that one back up again. So let's just start with customer. As you can see, customer has an add, it has a delete, and it has a list. All right, so here's the list. It's of type model list customer. It is that customer manager that comes up. So this list is the default page. When you click the link, be it in the list group or up in your navigation bar, this is where you go. You can see there's 3 fields in here, a name, an email, and a city. Then in here, we're looping through those. And that's it for in here. So that's the list. The delete, fairly simplistic. And as always, it comes up with that confirm. It says, are you sure you want to delete, followed by whatever it said it is you said you wanted to delete. And our add edit. Again, as we talked about before, we add that section scripts in lines 7 through 10. So we now have the ability to client-side JavaScript validation. All right. Then we've got a form. You'll notice there is a little bit different here as far as the validation summary. We typically set it to all, but now we're setting it to model only. Then we're adding in here a first name, a last name, an address, a city, a state, a postal code, a country, and this is new. So please take a look in there. So what we've done is we've added the ASP-items to create a new select list. So rather than hard coding those things in there, we're having a select list where we're going through the list of whatever it is we're looking for. All right, and that's that. So that's our customer views, our home. Let me close all these. We've got our about, which we looked at already. And we've got our index, which again is just basically that list on the side that we saw that's put in there as a list group. So right now with what we've done, all of this works, but we have not yet implemented the registration. All right, we've actually gone into the tech incident. So that one is. So what's left yet is this registration. So that's the home views. Incident, let me close this again. You'll notice that with incident, the type is incident view model. Again, in lines 7 through 10, we're adding in the ability to run client-side scripting. Client-side validation using jQuery. Again, you'll notice that in here, we've got a select. And again, we are coming in just like we talked about before. All right, a new select list. So we're telling it basically to go to the customers table and give us a list of customers. Then we do a similar thing with products. All right. So there's the add edit, the delete, nice and small as it always is. And then our list. And you'll notice in here what we're doing with this incident manager is we're basically saying we're doing the filtering there. So we're telling it which one of those things should have that pill. So in other words, rather than looking like a hyperlink, it'll look like a button. All right. Then we've got a table, as you can see. All right, with the title, the customer, the product, and the date open. Then we've got a list of the incidents. All right. That's it for that. Let's go into product. And for product, again, we've got add edit, we've got delete, and we've got list. So this is a listing of our products. Each product has a code, a name, a price, and a release date. That release date, we are formatting it, so it's to string. All right. And then we're setting up a button or links, I guess, that look like buttons for editing and deleting. Our delete again, nice and small. With all these, are you sure you want to delete this? And then you click that you do want to delete or you cancel out. All right, our add edit then. Notice this is of type product. All right, we've got our scripts again in lines 7 through 10. All right, we come in here, and as you can see, we've got a form with all those fields we talked about before. In other words, code, name, yearly price, release date. And we also add the product ID in as a hidden field. And we've got our button and our hyperlink that's been shaped like a button, or styled like a button. All right, so that's everything for product. Again, we're skipping registration for now. So we need tech incident and technician. So for tech incident, here is our list. It's of type tech incident view model. And each tech incident has a title, a customer, a product, and a date opened. Again, it's a view. This is what we're showing the end user. Remember, we're setting these things up. All right. We're working our way through here, for lack of better words. And again, if the incident count is greater than 0, all right, meaning if there is one or more incidents, otherwise the technician doesn't have any open incidents. All right. There's a get in here, which is not our delete, but it's small like a delete. This is of type technician, because as you can see, it gets a technician. So this has got your drop-down list of technicians. And finally, we've got an edit. Again, now it's in lines 6 through 10 rather than 7 to 10. But we have in here our scripts, our title, and then another form that's got all the fields we just mentioned. So hopefully you can see how this is all fitting together. So the technician's name, the customer's full name, so we're using that read-only property that we set back in the customer model. All right, the product, the title, the date opened. And notice these are all label, 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 label. That means those are all read-only. Then we've got the incident with a text area in it, so we can have multiple lines. A text type that we're using for the date closed. Again, we have a hidden field with the ID and our one button and our hyperlink that's styled like another button. Finally, we've got our technician. And what does a technician have? She or he has a name, an email, and a phone. That's it. Well, they also have an ID. So again, back in line 7, we're adding our server-side validation using Java or using jQuery capability. And we come in here, and this is the whole thing. Again, name, email, and phone, plus the ID that we're passing in as a hidden field. The delete, again, not very much to it. And finally, the list. And there's only the 3 fields, name, email, and phone. That's it. So that's everything right there. So what I've tried to do with you, again, is to go through, and now we've gone through the major controllers, the major models, and the major views. Now there's more we're going to have to do in just a bit. But to my knowledge, at least, We've now gone through 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. All right. Now notice here we're on the customer edit page. All right. Well, let's look at something here to see if this works. So let's go back to here. We're on the chapter 12. I'm going to run this. I'm going to click the customer link. And I'm going to come in to add a new customer. And I'm going to leave everything blank. Everything. And click save. And you can see now all this says is required. This is the one the author put in there. I had us put in, customer first name is required, customer last name is required, etc. All right, but you'll notice again, as we start putting stuff in here, so let's get rid of all this junk. All right, it goes back to required. And as I fill them in, so let's put in all that, boom. Okay, we should be able to put all this in. Let's give me a different country. I'll take Spain. All right, so JP Scott is my other email address. It doesn't matter if you know that. So rankin.edu. All right, and let's put in my 314-286-3675. Click save. Well, it says it's in the wrong format. Right, because we did put in there a regular expression. It's supposed to look like this with a dash here. Notice it goes away. If I click save, I should now be in there. I'm in there now as a new customer. I can edit me. Okay, well, I should do something where it shows. How about this? All right. So, and I spelled my last name wrong, which is always a good thing, huh? All right. And I can delete me. Okay. So when we look in here then, and we look at what we're supposed to do, again, this is chapter 11. So as it says, for this assignment, we're going to modify it so it improves data validation for the add edit customer page. All right. You do have to do a little bit of work in here as far as in your local CSS file. You have to add a class in there for input validation. And you want to make the border color for text boxes the same color as text danger. And you want to make the background color for each of the text boxes antique white. That's what they tell us to do. So when we look in here, this is our edit page. And as it says, it's like we did in 4.3, but with improved validation. So virtually everything that's in here is required and must have between 1 and 51 characters, less than 51. So if we go back in, just so you see this, I'm going to go back into here, stop the run, and I'm going to go over into my models, and I'm going to open up the customer model. And you can see how it's changed. We've got required with an error message of required. Again, let's just change this so it looks a little nicer. So we'll say first name is required. I'm just going to copy this. This will be last name is required. This will be, address is required. This will be city is required. This will be state is required. This will be postal code, and it is a little different. It's 20. The rest are all 50. All right. Here is our regular expression for the phone. Okay. You don't have to say required, because if you haven't put it in, that the regular expression test is going to fail anyway. So here we'll say email is required. All right. And notice it's going to have a remote on there where we're going to check. And we're passing in for our additional field the customer ID, because what that is going to do is to verify that no two customers have the same email. Plus, notice we've got a navigation property to a linking entity here that we'll talk about a little bit later. All right, so now that I've made those changes, all right, since I have literally come in and I've changed this in here, let's see. I want to see something, and that is if I run this again, and if I go to customer, and I try to put in a new customer, and when I do that, I put in nothing. Now you can see my new messages have been put there. The reason that I just ran that to check it is I would have thought that I would have had to have done a new migration. All right. But the rules on that are kind of weird, for lack of better words. It of course wouldn't hurt if I went in and did another migration and an update database. I think it would be cleaner to do that. All right. It's showing on here, but really the stuff that we're doing here technically isn't affecting the database. So if you didn't do it, I could see, the rationale for saying, well, I don't even want to do that. Okay. All right. So we just looked at the add customer page. So as it says, the drop-down list must be set to a valid country, not the select a country item. So let's look at that. So if we have it as select a country, we should get an error message. I think you hopefully already saw that anyway, but let's run it one more time to be sure. So add customer, let's put in a bunch of information. All right. So Jeff Scott, et cetera, et cetera. Let's leave out United States out of there, and let's just set it to select a country, which should be at the top. We should get that error on that field now. All right, I've got to fix this as well. All right, an unhandled exception rather. Value cannot be null. It didn't like that in the viewbag.countries. All right, so it didn't like it, but really what it should have done is it should have shown an error message. All right, but there was nothing that was put in here, and there was nothing programmatic that was added in there to make that happen. So how could you get around that? Well, one way you could get around that, as an example, all right, we could have defaulted it. I don't know why we couldn't do this. All right, and that is to try it. Let's see if we can do that. Like that. All right, now it doesn't like this, so let's see. It says cannot implicitly convert type string to a country. All right, generate implicit conversion. Well, it's not going to do that. So the problem is this isn't a drop down. So how do we fix that? Let's look at it. Okay. And that is when we go in here and we're attempting to go in and add a new customer. All right, so let's go into our views and let's go into add edit. So someplace in here, there's the country stuff. All right, we've got name, and notice it says select the country. I don't know what'll happen if we come in here and say in here, United States. Because my guess is it'll just put in that string. It won't know that we actually mean United States. But let's try that just for the heck of it. And I think that's the problem. It's not going to do what I want it to do because that value shouldn't be put in there like that. Because XX is basically unknown. All right. What I want to do, and this is still getting ready to run, so I'll wait till it's finished. Is it finished? Nope, it's not. So I'm just going to stop the run right away. And what I want to do is I'm going to go into our data layer because in there we've got our seed data. So I'm going to look at our seed data under seed customers. All right. And for state, let's see, country ID, it's US. Okay. So I'm wondering if we come in here and do this like that. All right. And again, if you do know that the majority of your customers will be from the United States, that might not be a bad way to do this. All right, I've used that example before with drop downs, saying that as an example, if I was making something for Rankin, and it turns out that, let's say 90% of the people who go to Rankin are from Missouri and 10% are from Illinois. Well, then doing something like taking the state and defaulting it to Missouri might not be a bad idea. So now if we come in here and we go to customers and we go to add a new customer, notice we've changed that to United States. All right. And it is United States also. Okay. In fact, it looks like, yeah, we don't have that in there anymore. We do not any longer have in there select the country. All right. Again, is that I'm just showing you things that can be done. All right. So that's everything that's in there then for that. So let's continue on then. All right, let me close all this stuff up. All right. All right, that brings us up to 12. So this is the new stuff. What I'm going to do, we've been going now for over an hour and a half, and we'll probably a good half done, if not more. All right. So before I go back and do the managing registrations for 12.1 and then put in our data access stuff, I think was 12.2, encapsulating the data layer. All right. Before we do that, all right, I'm going to take a quick break. Now, unlike the way that it is in when we use Teams, here I can pause. So I'll be back in just a couple moments. All right, break's over. So I'm going to continue on here. I'm up to 12.1. For this assignment, you'll add some pages that let an admin user view the product registrations for a customer and add new product registrations as well. So you can see we're going to have a registration controller and we're going to have a get customer method in here. All right, so this, like we did before with the technicians, this will give us a list of customers. All right. So the get customer page is displayed by the manage registrations link on the home page and by the registration link in the nav bar. Okay. The get customer page allows the user to select the customer. If the user doesn't select the customer, We should get a temp data error in here again that says something like no customer selected. And then for that customer, we can register products. Okay, that's what it looks like. So that will be 12.1 is what we have here. The registrations page displays the name of the selected customer and all products that have been registered for that customer. Or if there are no products, it indicates that there are no products registered. To register a product, the user can select the product from the product drop-down list and click the register button. The website should store the customer's ID and session state so the website can remember the current customer. To get these pages to work correctly, you should add a linking entity class named registration that provides a many-to-many relationship between customer and product. So first, let's go in and look under our models. Customer, we've already added that. All right, and does product have it as well? Yes, it does. So again, there's a many-to-many relationship between customers and products. Many customers can register for the same product. Many customers can register for many products. Many products can be registered for by many customers. There we go. Okay, so we've got that. Let's go up into our controllers and look there, and you'll notice before we even do this and look at the registration controller, which we will do, let's start with our model and look at our registration in there. Pretty simple. So each registration, you'll notice that it has a customer ID and a product ID. It is a concatenated primary key because, again, the same customer can register for many products. The same product can be registered for by multiple customers. So we've got a concatenated or a composite primary key there. Plus we've got his navigation properties, the customer class, and the product class. So we can grab other fields out of there. Okay. Let's look at something right now, and that is this. I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to go to registrations. Okay, get a customer. Pick on anybody, it doesn't matter. Gonzalo Keaton. All right, and it says Gonzalo has no registered products like it's supposed to. And let's register Gonzalo for Draft Manager 1.0. All right, so now notice that's what he's got. If we try to select another product, we shouldn't be able to do Draft Manager 1.0 again. This product is already registered to this customer. Good. All right, so that at least that appears to be working. All right, let's stop the run and start by going through then. We just quickly looked at the registration CS. Okay, let's look at the registration controller. Okay, I don't know why they switched over from context to data here, but they did, and it's no biggie. So first we've got to get customer, and you'll notice what we're doing. We're first listing all of the customers by last name. All right, and then what we're attempting to do is in line 24, we're checking to see if it's a new customer or not. And the way we do that is we check the customer ID. All right, and if there's nothing to register there, we set it to 0. All right, and if it is 0, we're bringing in a new customer. Otherwise, we want to go and find that customer. That should make sense. And we return either a new customer or that existing customer. So that's our get customer. We've got a list. And the list has both a get and a post. And again, for whatever reason, the author put the post first. So let's jump down to here and then we'll go back up. All right. So here's our list, which is basically getting for that customer. It is getting every product that that customer has currently registered for. All right. And then in our post, as it says here, we're checking to see if indeed it is a new customer. All right, I shouldn't even say that. This is coming in here and checking that drop-down list of customers. If we've selected nothing, then the customer ID will be 0. So it says you must select a customer. That's what we saw with the temp data. Otherwise, okay, we're doing a redirect to action to list, but we're grabbing that current customer. Okay, that's in our post. And in our get, we're just setting the stage for this. All right. Well, that was our list. Our list get. I don't know if I showed that or not, so I'll leave that up there for a second. You know, I want to mention something too. I'm going to go off script here a little bit, so to speak, and tell you that this has been one of my hardest years ever as a teacher. And the only reason I'm telling you this is, especially with the first year people, what I had been doing almost all semester is when people have not completed things, all right, I just haven't put anything in the grade book. Not zeros, just not anything in the grade book. And the reason that that's a bad thing is that's really not reminiscent of what their grade is. All right. So what I did was I went back yesterday for the entire class, and anything that any student was missing that's already due, all right, if they didn't turn it in yet, they got a 0. And I went from having no one that was failing to having about a third of the class now failing. Now, will they all fail? Of course not. All right. But with you guys in here too, I don't know with this class, you know, I'm going to be interested at the end of the semester. Now, in about 5 or 6 weeks, you're going to all get course evaluations. You think the way I did this stunk? Please say that. You know, you've got to put down what you feel and you've got to be honest. And I don't have any problem with that. I got to put on my big boy pants, as they say, and just take it. All right. And that's okay. It really and truly is. Okay. And I'd rather do that and be able to learn from it. I mean, if everybody wrote down the class stunk and so did the instructor, I'd probably have something to worry about. I'm not going to lie to you. All right. And it's going to be interesting with that class too to see what the evaluations are like. I've had all sorts of stuff happen in there. I've had people who have been sick. I have people who have had family members that have been sick, etc. All right. In your class here, I've got people who have had very extenuating circumstances for different things, work obligations, family obligations, etc. I try to work around people as much as I can and do the best I can working with people. You may agree with that, you may not agree. All right, this is registering a new user. All right, so if it's 0, you must select a product. And here we're doing the actual registration then. And remember, for each product, we need the customer and the product. So we need the IDs of both. We do an insert, and notice that we put that into a try catch, the data.save, and if it doesn't work, we let them know basically what happened. And you already saw that. This product is already registered. It would make no sense to register the same product multiple times. And here is the delete. So like I said, hopefully the way I'm doing this is helping people. All right. If you're really struggling through 12 and if you say there's something I didn't help you with, please let me know and I'll see if I can do some more that I'm not doing right now. All right, so we've now looked at the registration.cs model. We have looked at the registration controller. So let's go down into our views. And in our views, let's look again under registration, and we'll have two of them, get a customer and list. Oops, let's bring those both out. So there's get a customer, and that's similar in size to like a delete. And here's our list, which is 50 some lines. So let's look at both of them. So here's get customer. So we're getting the customer's full name, as you can see, in a select list. All right. And we're not prefacing it with anything. In other words, we're not, oh, we do have a select a customer. I'm sorry, right here. All right. And again, if they don't select one, they're going to end up getting an error message. So if we look here, you'll notice that the model type is registration view model, which means we put in a new view model. Let's look at that. Under view models, there is registration view model. In fact, we had a tech incident view model too. Let's look at them both. Here is the tech incident view model. Technician, the particular incident, and a list of all incidents. All right, and the registration view model. Again, as you'd probably guess, we have what? We have our two primary keys, basically, product ID and customer ID. All right, we've got a navigation property for customer. And we also have in here 3 IEnumerable lists, one for registrations, one for customers, and one for products. So let's go back to the list here. Again, it's a type registration view model. It's a table, so we're going through there, and we're listing out here, all right, what products the customer has registered. If there's nothing in there, because that's in the if, so we're only going through that if they have a count greater than 0. So if it's 0, we're just coming in saying the selected customer has no registered products. And here's the list of products that went below that. So what this is right here, and I'll come right back to it, but what we're looking at right here is if I go over to registrations, what I just mentioned to you, all right, let's see. All right, what do we got in here? We've got a list of everything that the customer is registered for. We've got a list of all the products. You already saw this, but if I do Draft Manager 2.0 again, I'm going to get an error right here. The product is already registered to this customer. If I try Tournament Master, now there's 2 of them in here. Delete should come up and say, are you sure you want to delete that? It doesn't. It just deletes. And it's back to the customer has no registered products. All right. So here's that product thing that's down below. So you can take a quick look at that as well. And in just a moment, we'll go in and we'll look at 12.2, which is pretty much breaking this whole thing up. And what I mean is, and I don't know why they did it that way, because earlier in the book, the author recommended that under your models folder, if you've got multiple things here, that you make a folder in here for your view methods, you make a folder in here for your data layer, and now they're breaking that. All right. I should mention that they're in the models because I don't think I showed this before. We did go through technicians, registration, product, incident, customer, and country, but we didn't go through this check thing in here. At least not today we didn't. That is checking to make sure we are not allowing two different customers to have the same email address. That's that email exists. All right, so we're making a check right here to see if the email that we're trying to enter for the customer is already existing in the database. If it is, we give them an error message that says that email address is already in use. All right, if it's not, if this if here is not true, it was set to being empty, so it's just going to return nothing, the empty string. All right. Okay, I think that's everything for 12.1. So let's take a look at what they say to do in 12.2. All right. There. All right. So this is the last one. I have mentioned this before. There was nothing for 13. I don't think we're even going to have time to go over this testing stuff. I don't think Evan goes through it either. But I'm going to ask you to try to do 15. Hopefully you can. You see it's got just one page on there. And at the end of the semester, we'll go through 15 and 16 together. All right. So you'll notice there's only one page for 15, one page of specs, no pictures. 16 has two pictures, but only one page of specs. And that'll be it. Other than the project that you're going to be asked to start doing next week. All right, so here's 12.2. For this assignment, you'll modify the SportsPro website so that it uses the repository pattern and the unit of work pattern to encapsulate the data layer. Well, we've talked about these before. All the code in the data layer should be stored in its own folder, not in the models or a controller's folder. So that's what they want. Every data layer thing should be in a folder. The code that's for the seed data should be moved out of the DB context class and into separate classes, one for each table. So in other words, these configuration classes that we talked about in an earlier chapter. Number 3, the code that configures the many-to-many relationship with the registrations table as the linking table should be moved out of the DB context and into its own class as well. Number 4, the data layer should use the iRepository interface and the repository and query options classes to implement the repository pattern. Note, because one of the queries in the tech incident controller has multiple where clauses, you should use the repository and query option classes presented in chapter 13. That's because these classes provide for multiple where clauses, whereas the ones in 12 only provide for a single where clause. Okay. Next, the data layer should use an interface and a class to implement the unit of work pattern. So it should have a unit of work and it should have an I unit of work, it sounds like. Next, the controller should use the repository and unit of work classes instead of the DB context class. Next, controllers that only work with one DB set can use the repository class. For instance, the product controller only needs to work with product objects, so it can use the repository product class. Controllers that work with multiple DB sets should use the unit of work class. For instance, the incident controller works with the incident object, customer object, product object, and technician object, so it should use the unit of work class. For a customer controller to be able to use a repository or unit of work class, the validation controller and the check class must be updated as well. Finally, the tech incident controller has a query with more than one where clause. You can refer to the text in 13.4 for an example of how this should work. Well, that's a mouthful. All right, so let's start it like this. Let's take a look at all of the data to begin with. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is just close everything. All right, and we're going to start by, I don't think there's going to be anything new in models here. I think we've already touched on everything that goes in there. View models, nothing new in there. We've touched on all those. All right, that's a good start. So let's go into this data layer that's right here. And you'll notice that it's broken up into repositories, etc. And there's a seed data, and there's a configuration. Let's do the easy stuff first. So let's look at the configuration and the seed data. Then we'll come back and look at these. All right. So the configurations are set up as shown here. Now this also means that we have changed our context file. In fact, we should probably look at that one first. So is the model still have the context file? No. There it is. Okay. So previously we had put our seed data right in here. We've got what? Products table, a technicians table, a countries table, a customers table, an incidents table, and a registrations table. 6 tables. We also have 6 controllers, one for each one of the ones shown there, except not one for countries, but we have a home controller. All right. Then this is applying those configuration files. So you'll see there are 6 of those. Seed products, seed technicians, seed countries, seed customers, seed incidents, and seed registrations. So make sure you go in and change your on model creating. All right, this should all be the same as it was before. Everything up to about right there. But these last 5, 6, 7, 10 lines should be changed, so the stuff not in blue should be changed to shown. All right, nothing really new there in that we've done this before. Then let's go into those configurations and look and see what's in there. Again, this is setting up the relationships. So you can see, all right, we've got the composite primary key. This is really letting the system know that we're going to have the many-to-many relationship in there. All right. Registration config. So this is going to be our many-to-many relationship. And here we are signifying too that we have one-to-many relationships between customer and registration and between product and registration. And if you remember, we added to each one of those. We added to the customer class, going back to models here, and our products class. So customer had this navigation linking property. All right. And product also had the same navigation linking property. All right. All right. So again, we've got our configuration file, which I've already gone over now, and then our seed data, which should make sense, hopefully, to people. All right. These are our customers. This is our data. Each country has an ID and each country has a name. For our customers, each customer has an ID. Each customer has a first name, a last name, an address, a city, a state, a postal or zip code, a country ID, a phone number, which must be in that format, and an email. Notice that even though these are in order, they don't necessarily have to be. And since we're hard coding the data in, you'll notice that the first customer ID is 1002. There is no 1001. We go 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So we're putting in odd numbers, or even numbers, I should say, until we get to here. Then we put in an odd number. All right, for our incidents, 4 of them. And you'll notice for each incident, other than, I should say every other incident. So this was opened here and closed here. This was opened here but is not closed. This was opened here and closed here. This was opened here and not closed. All right. And here we do have sequential IDs. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, next we have our products. And again, each product has an ID, a code, a name, a yearly price, and a release date. All right. And we have 7 products. All right. Next, we have our registrations. So again, notice that customer 2 is registered for both products 1 and 3, and customer 10 is registered for product 2. And that's it. The rest of them should come up with a message that they weren't registered. All right. For our technicians, we talked about this before. And if you remember when I tried putting in like 3, 4, etc., didn't find them. And that's because our IDs are 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. Why did they start in there? Who knows? It doesn't really matter. But each customer does have his, or each technician does have his or her own ID. All right, his or her own name, his or her own email, his or her own phone number. All right, so I'm going to close the seed data, and I'm going to close the configuration, and let's look through these 6 files here. And then we will call it a period, because I think we've hit on everything there is to hit on, I believe at least. All right, so here's our repository, our interface, or iRepository. And again, this is going to be able to handle what? Our CRUD operations. Since it's an interface, anything that basically inherits from that interface is going to have these things in there. So you see what we have in here. Looks very similar to the kind of stuff we've done previously. All right, I'm going to make this smaller so we can show all of it. There it is. Take a screenshot if you need to. All right. And I'm going to go right from that iRepository to repository. And there that is. That's too big to take a screenshot for. But as it inherits from iRepository, we need to provide everything that's in there. All right. Take a screenshot if you need to. Then come down here. Take another one if you need to. Then come down here. I think that's it, isn't it? Yep. And that's got that same insert, update, delete, and save that we showed in the iRepository. All right. We've got an SportsPro unit. And what does that have? All of our tables in it and a save. That's an iSports unit. And if we look at sports unit, what do we have in there? Again, pretty big file, but it implements, or I should say, yeah, it implements the SportsPro unit. So there's products, and it's creating a new type of that repository if or as necessary. Then there's technicians, same thing. Then there's customers, same thing. Countries, same thing. Incidents, same thing. Registrations, same thing. So what do we have in here? All right, we've got what? Technicians, customers, countries, incidents, registrations. All right, so out of our models that we have, okay, country, customer, incident, product, registration, technician. Do we have all those? Let's take it from the top. Country, there it is. Customer, there it is. Incident, there it is. Product, there it is. Registration, there it is. There. And technician, which I think was first. Right there. Oh, products is first. All right. Now, we can all go back and we can read 12 and we can read 13. And if you say to me exactly what is the SportsPro unit doing? Well, it is allowing us to create a new repository of that type. Why? Can't really tell you. All right. So I believe the only thing that's left in here, close this, and let's see. The only thing I believe that's left in here is the query options. All right. And again, the author suggests that you go and look at the one that's in chapter 13 in the text, because there is at least one condition in there where we have multiple where clauses. All right. One thing I wish they would have done in this textbook, and that is, I wish they would have, done more internal programming documentation than they have done. All right. So order by direction, you've seen this before, ascending or descending. All right. Where clauses, if we're going to do filtering. Coming down here, it says private backing field for property and methods that work with include strings. Again, we looked at some of this stuff before, being able to split different things up so that, for example, all right, when we've got a list of something, we can break it up into an array. We've got a big string, we can break it up into an array, and then if we need to later, we can put it back together into a string again. All right, and that is everything. Now, I'm hoping that somebody watches this, and I'm hoping that somebody gets something out of this, and I'm hoping that somebody thought that this was worthwhile. I mean, it's 2 hours and 10 minutes, okay? On Monday of next week, which will be the 6th, I'm hoping against hope that I can have something and we can start on our project, okay? Until then, have a nice weekend. If you do have questions on this after you look at it, please let me know. I did not just want to throw the code out there. I wanted to go over it and give you at least a minimalist understanding of what's going on. I hope I did that. In fact, I hope I gave you more than a minimal or minimalist understanding. All right. I'm giving you what I can give you on this, and hopefully it's helped. All right. If it has not, let me know. All right. And I'll see what more I can do. Okay. But like I said, hopefully this, if nothing else, really got you going on the road. 2 hours and 10 minutes. All right. Have a good weekend. Thanks. Bye.